You're listening to Force Majeure, an actual play Star Wars podcast. Me Adam, me host. Soon episode. First, sponsory goodness, yes?
Thank you, Teresa.
Oh, hello. You've caught us in a moment of leisure, thankfully with only drinks in hand. I'm Olaf Bathtime.
And I'm Hefty Cleft. Aren't you good-looking people? Now, if there's three things we know, it's people who suck with their grading confectionery, and podcasts that talk about grading confectionery and people sucking with their...
Indeed. And if you're like us, you're probably on some sort of... you're probably what a podcast, just like this.
So, why not pop a search into your podcast provider and just look for The Meanderthals.
It's completely free, or your money back. Cheers.
Hello everybody and welcome back. I don't know what happened there either, but it did, and we're just all going to have to live with that and move on. My name is Adam, I am your host for episode 19 of the Coldfire Chronicles, and I'm joined around this table at the moment by a number of players, and they're going to introduce themselves now.
Hi, my name is Ed Fortune. I play the character of Oberon Brick. He is a human hunter-seeker. His moral strength is justice, and his moral weakness is cruelty.
Hi, I'm Mim. I play Lassa. She is a human sentinel artisan. Her emotional strength is her curiosity, and her emotional weakness is obsession.
Hello, my name is Mikey. I play Jiren. I am a Chiss Mystic Advisor. My emotional strength is my enthusiasm, and my emotional weakness is my recklessness.
Hi, I'm Ross. I play Agatha, a Morailan warrior aggressor whose emotional strength is his pride, but whose weakness is his anger.
And following on from last session's morality question, I'm once again going to be asking our players a question rather than a question from our characters. So this is a question to all of you, and I'll let you answer it in whichever order you fancy. Do you consider yourself a good person? Your character's not you. I mean, that's a whole other podcast.
After Dark with Force Majeure, where we tackle the problems that matter. From Lassa's perspective, she wouldn't really consider herself a good person just because the kind of people that do consider themselves good people tend to be prats. Not the worst people. She doesn't consider herself a murderer. She sees herself as being on one of those rim people who are just getting by. Not good, not bad, just surviving. Good and bad is for people who have more money and more time to spend on it than just surviving day to day. She certainly has no qualms about who she is, and she doesn't feel bad about who she is.
Oberon spent a lot of his youth being told that he was a damn fine, upstanding member of the community and a decent person, and decent people did the things that he did, up until the point that he realised that was complete lies, and he does not consider himself to be a good person. He doesn't consider the people who taught him that way to be good people.
Agatha's quite the opposite. Agatha has been told probably most of his life that he doesn't live up to the moral levels of the people around him, and then he got into murdering people. So that didn't, start going well for him. But at this point, probably not. I mean, he's been in prison for actually the right reasons. Whether he's actually apologetic about it is something that's yet to be determined. But at the moment, if he was a good person, he wouldn't have been in prison.
I disagree with that. I was in prison, and I was clearly framed. I mean, okay, I did the crime, but I was still framed. Jiren doesn't think he's a good person. He thinks he's an awesome person. Really, he thinks he's amazing. He's a little bit of a prat. Yeah, he thinks he's a good person, or at least he tries to be. And he has a fair bit of fun doing that. Doing bad is a failing, really. You can get through things without really doing that much in the way of bad stuff. I mean, assuming like doing bank jobs and swindling people out of their money isn't a bad thing, which he doesn't think is a bad thing. It's just the way you get through life. So, yeah, Jiren thinks he's a good person. He might not be right.
We return to our heroes, our camera, on the void of space. The planet of Alpinn hangs in the centre of the screen, sunlight reflecting off its crystalline outcroppings and cliffs. And around the planet of Alpinn, coming into orbit, we see the Coldfire's Mercy. The coordinates you were given from Thrall are visible on the heads-up map in the cockpit and point to a place on the planet that's marked up as a mining camp. From where you are, it's about 20 minutes flight in, given the speeds that most cruisers go to these days. But yes, it is morning. You have all healed all of your strain. You have healed a wound. You have slept as best as you can, and if not fully refreshed, you're probably less broken than you were when you left the Coster Thibaren and got back on top of Coldfire's Mercy. As is usually the way, you awaken to the smell of frying pig snacks. Well, I say pig snacks, of frying meat products, as Pyjak is doing a cooked breakfast for everybody. There is the smell of tea and the sound of the teas maker as it's chunnering away in the galley. You can't hear Prinkle. Normally, when he's setting up breakfast, you can usually hear him humming and singing to himself quietly throughout the ship. He's ominously silent at this moment in time. Mr. Sparkles wakes up on Oberon's head.
Ah! Griff! Oh, hello, Captain. Oberon very carefully takes Captain Sparkles and puts him in the right place, which is on Tugger's head.
Okay. As you make your way down the corridor towards the cockpit, you can see that Agatha is in the galley with Pyjak as well, helping him with the breakfast. He doesn't appear to have been thrown out, mostly because Prinkle's not in there and therefore being overly protective, and that is something that you do very much notice, the fact that Prinkle is not presently in the galley. If you ask Pyjak whereabouts he is, Pyjak's like, well, yeah, he's sleeping off at the moment. He had a bit of a funny turn last night. Pass me the blue milk. Got to get these pancakes going on, and some people need a brew. Just reach in those stores there. Give me some of that bantha bacon. Got to get that frying off. Oh, I love me a bit of bantha bacon. Very salty, but fills you up for the day. You know, that's the scene in the galley as Agatha and Pyjak are making a bounteous repast for the rest of the crew.
Can't cook, shouldn't cook.
You'll have to find out when it arrives.
Oberon pulls up a chair and sits down at breakfast and starts fiddling with a data pad.
Okay.
Good morning, everybody. Well, whatever time it is. I think the beeping noise suggests we're here, right?
Yes, we are in orbit. Tugger has just got us orbiting. We can approach at any time.
Mm-hmm.
Lasser comes by, scribbling in a pad with a cup of tea, trying to juggle a data pad and holding it up against the wall while she tries to write something that's come into her mind, whilst also then trying to take a swig of tea.
Okay.
Morning.
Morning.
Two things. We're in orbit with a planet. We're connected to the HoloNet, so we've downloaded more episodes of Heights and Depths.
Okay.
And the second thing is, last night we had an incident with the artifact we retrieved from the Coster Thibaren.
Okay, explain.
Yeah, Prinkle took a bit of a turn for the peculiar.
It's not a thing you should be going near.
I sensed something was wrong. I went to see Prinkle. I carefully took the orb out of his hands.
Oh.
Didn't touch it myself. Put it in a box. Got Larsa to weld the box shut and then put it in a lockbox. So we can get to it. It's fine. Yep. It's just out of Temptation's way.
I touched it yesterday.
Under observation, Lasser hastens to add.
Oh, yeah. It's not a holocron that I thought it was. Holocron is a repository for information. It is a battery. It is power.
I would describe it as a big box of fear myself, but it scares me.
There's no flavor to the power, okay? When you touch it, you draw from it what you... Essentially, it's a reflection of yourself.
Oh.
There was no... You know when we were on the Coster Thibaren and you could feel the evil? There's no evil in it. It's not full. It was powering the evil. And I think, and it is just a theory, but I think that it empowered the feelings that the captain had to keep his crew going and to continue. And that's where the evil was coming from. That's where Flesh was. That's why he kept creating his crew, and that's why he wanted to voice to his crew. But when I touched it, there was nothing. It's just...
So if we put it in a room full of lots of very happy, well-fed Tuka, it will be very happy and well-fed. But if we put it in a place where people are slightly scared of it, it will reflect fear.
I don't know about that, says Lassa, but what I can tell you is it's no different than any other battery or power source. You can put it in a blaster or a bedside light. You know, it's up to the person who's got it as to what they use it for, I reckon.
Agatha, who's probably been slightly pale during some of the discussion, possibly because over the course of this night hasn't really gotten away from the Coster Thibaren mentally, is less reassured by the reference to a bed light outside light, because that's been the only thing that's keeping going at the moment.
Oh, see, I feel quite bad. I just like the alliteration of it.
That's fine. No, you wouldn't be aware of the problem at this point.
Or is she? Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do.
Agatha doesn't know who's provided this bedside light. All he knows is he's still wearing it.
You're wearing it now.
It's hung by his belt.
So what happened? Prinkle touched it.
Prinkle was overwhelmed with feelings of wanting to protect us, but wanting to protect us in a very negative sort of way.
I saw his fur. It looked like he'd been plugged into a 9-volt.
And he did not want to let go and was suffering withdrawal symptoms. Almost like it was a drug.
Power is addictive, especially if you've never had it before.
That's very true. This feels to me dangerous and addictive.
Oh, it's something that it's terrifying, but it'll be useful for us.
Aren't we about to give it away?
That's what I mean.
I think I'll be happier when it's... Oh dear. I was about to say I'll be happier when it's not our problem, but we're about to make it someone else's problem.
Well, I'll be honest, what we're going to do is we're going to take it to this Vitaara, and we're going to see what she is like, and we will at very least show her it. And if we don't feel that it's a good thing to give it to her, then it's not a good thing to give it to her, and we will have to find Tabletop Coldfire in a different way. It is she doesn't know we're coming. It's not like we've agreed to give this to her before. We are going to see her, and we're going to ask her for information, and this is our bargaining chip.
We have data pads full of information and a broken lightsaber.
Shall we start with the other things? Do we want this on our ship? Where is Prinkle?
He's still sleeping. The poor little blighter was tuckered out by the time I took him to bed. So I gave him a hot milky cocoa, and he's still snoozing. I've just been to check in on him.
Righto.
If we leave before he wakes up, Lassa says, I think we ought to leave a note, just to let him know where we're gone. She scribbles something and pins it to the fridge with a magnet. It says, I heart Port Haven.
Okay. Yeah, so we take everything we have and we go and see what information we can get. We don't have to lay everything we have on the table straight away. If I feel we can trust her with this, I'd like to get rid of it.
Well, isn't that a little bit... I mean, alright, you're worried about it. Oberon says he's scared about it. So surely we would be better off making sure that if it's that scary or that threatening, that no one else uses it? So we keep it rather than handing it over to someone that will have met and gone, I have made a moral judgment about you.
I don't know who she is. I do know who Prinkle is. If this is something that he is addicted to, I don't want it on the ship.
Oh, the key's on the shelf. He can't reach it.
Yes, and he has no way of unwelding the box at all.
I'm more concerned for everyone else, as well as Prinkle and myself.
I'm going to say Prinkle is great.
Yes. No, I'm worried about Prinkle. I'm worried about the rest of the crew as well.
Yeah.
I don't want us arguing over a thing.
Lassa nods. All I'm saying is, it wasn't a problem for you, or for me, or for Jiren, or for Agatha who was sleeping through it. We all treated it with respect.
Did you touch it?
I did not touch it. Though I kind of... My mind scribed against it, but I didn't physically touch it.
There's a lot of power there.
I could sense that, yes. Its connection to the living force is interesting.
Now, I love Prinkle, says Lassa, and she's very emphatic about it. I love him to bits. But we were all smart enough to go, this is something that needs looking at, experimenting with, researching.
So you describe it as a battery?
Oh, it is. It is a power source, but it is the force.
So it's a thing that can control and contain the living force?
Well, I don't know anything about controlling. Does a power pack control the electricity within it? No, it's just somewhere to put it.
You touched it?
Well, I was doing a lot of tests on it, and all of my equipment, it was coming up negative.
Without anybody around you?
Well, I was making notes, and I was using all my equipment.
I don't think anybody should touch it by themselves.
It's perfectly fine. It's just
Well, if it's fine, then I don't think anybody should touch it by themselves, and that should be fine.
All right, fair enough, but I couldn't get any readings off it until something biological or, as I suspect, something with a link to the Force which is mostly biological. I mean, imagine that a rock might have something, but there'd be no way of actually viewing whether or not a rock
What did you do?
would give out visible. I was trying to get it to communicate with my electronic scanners, and it wouldn't.
Yep.
But then I thought maybe it's not like electricity. It's still a power source, and it can be used to interact with machinery, because obviously Mr. Flesh made it do so. But it needs an organic force relevant, and force is everywhere, right? Pyjack said the force is everywhere, in rocks and trees and everything.
Yeah, that's right. It's all around us.
So something like that to be a conduit towards anything else. So if you want it to interact with machinery, you can, but you have to be the wire that plugs it in.
Can I suggest that something that you may not have thought of? You are a user of the Force who specifically controls machines. So perhaps what you could do is because of you and not because of it, which matches with the idea that it is just a power source.
What I quite like about fuel is gas, for example, gets scooped up from one place and then is put into the hyperdrive that makes it work. And it's just a natural resource that's generated by the planet, and as I understand it, it's biological organisms interacting with each other, and that's an element, isn't it? It's just a thing, you can pick those up. This is a power source that seems to run on the Force, and the Force exists in every living thing, so you're making living things into a power source. I'll go back to being very worried.
In that case, Lasser has now started to get almost like she was talking to an apprentice and trying to explain the base theories about things. Most of the fuel sources that we've used across the years, and even some of our engineering resources, are made from the death of billions of tiny things. I mean, when you look at sand, a lot of the time it's come from an old seabed. You know, those rocks that you're looking at are billions and billions of tiny microscopic creatures. Some of the oil that we use, from when you look at it, it's from creatures that died loads of years ago, and they got compressed and squished out into something we then burn. We cut down trees, you set them on fire, and then you get fuel for your fire. That's what it is, and the Force is simply another element of that.
As I understand it, T gas is the digestive gases of tiny creatures, but that's different to a living, thinking thing being plugged in, which is kind of what we saw on the Coster Thibaren. That's literally taking Prinkle and using him as a fuel cell.
If it's a battery, can we drain it to make it safe?
Yes, but you won't like how it's drained. It won't. It needs to be drained out, and the only real way to drain it out is through somebody, I think.
Draining it wouldn't really make it safe, says Lasser. It would just make it a dead battery. It's safe right now. This power cell is as dangerous to you as it is to me. It's just, I'm smart enough to know how to use a battery carefully. I wouldn't trust any of you to deal with the fuel cells for the ship, the same way I wouldn't trust Prinkle, who wasn't aware of what this was, to touch it again. Everyone's looking at it as though I'm holding some kind of bomb, but it's not a bomb unless someone acts stupidly with it.
It is alive, you know.
If it's
Well, so's electricity. Have you
No.
seen lightning? It's got a force of its own.
That's right, but it has a personality, or at least a voice.
if we drain it, if it's a thing of the Force, then all it will become is hungry.
Or if you drain it, it becomes a dead battery. Why are we talking about it as though there's some wizard living inside it?
Because you don't know what it is, and you're trying to make it sensible by saying that it's a battery, and I used that analogy, and I think I made a mistake by using it.
You're right, I don't know what it is, Jerome, but you know what that makes me want to do?
Yeah.
Find out what it is rather than lock it in a box,
Yes.
throw it in an ocean and hope that a billion years later
But
maybe someone
assuming-
nicer will find it.
But assuming that it's a battery, don't treat it like it's a battery.
It is a reserve for a source of power. A source of power that is everywhere and already flowing through everybody, so it can't exactly be the worst power in the world. It just comes down to who's using it and whether they're smart and sensible. Don't lick a battery. Don't poke something that's a power source that you haven't researched with your bare hand. Don't shove it down your bra. All of those kind of things seem obvious.
So can we agree that it is a power source that we don't understand the containment protocol for?
Yes.
I think we
That
can
I'll
also
go
agree
with.
that it's quite addictive.
You held it for longer than me.
I'm fine. I want to get rid of it.
I've got it locked in a box and I haven't been licking it this morning.
Then let's get rid of it, shall we?
But there's... Alright, if you do think it's so dangerous, why are you so desperate to give it to a rando?
Okay, we're going to go back to the bit where I said that we should take everything we've got there and see if she's all right.
All right, even if she is not all right, you still want to get rid of it, which means what? You're going to spend the next 20 years searching for an honourable person to take care of this thing that you don't know what it is because you're too scared to find out what it is. And eventually someone's going to turn around and go, oh, brilliant, I've been looking for this. My refrigerator went down last week and this is what powers it.
I'm not scared of it. I'm scared of what other people will do with it.
If we can understand the containment protocol, then yes, maybe we should keep it. But I don't think we can. I don't think we are that smart.
I don't think you're smart enough to tell me what I can or cannot build if I'm allowed to research it, which you're all too scared to do.
I think I know more about it than you.
I have enough concern for your well-being to express my worry and
My
doubt.
well-being. Lassus drags herself up to her full 5 and a bit inches, puffed up.
Oberon, stay seated.
I am quite capable of keeping this ship running, of keeping you people breathing, and I am quite capable of looking after a tool which we don't understand. It's in a box, it's locked up. If someone hadn't wandered randomly into my room and decided to touch it, which I wouldn't recommend any of you doing, because many of my tools are sensitive, delicate equipments, and short of being given what seems to be an electric shock and possibly a weird force vision thing, you could have lost digits, you could have burnt out your eyes. My arc reactor from my welder is capable of blinding you if you just look at it while it's on.
I agree.
Wouldn't expect anyone to...
Lassa, you have lots of in the way of knowledge of certain respects.
And yet nobody
The
seems
Force-
to be listening to my knowledge.
the
I'm
Force-
the person that knows about these things.
You're the person that knows about batteries, and I again say this is not a battery that you would understand.
Is Prinkle the sort of person, we think, who would blindly walk into a room and pick up a dangerous object?
Yes, because he tidies up all the time. He's the kind of person that would go over to a dangerous object, give it a polish, sweep up anything that had fallen up with it, put it in a bin bag and put it in the trash can outside.
It was in your bag.
Well, it might have rolled out. I was very enthused when I was writing down the details that came out of it, but that's not the point.
That seemingly
I
is
was
the
not
point.
expecting... Oh, I'm sorry. Am I meant to expect people to walk in while I'm asleep and start touching my things?
You left it out?
I was doing research on it.
Oh, then that's fine then. I'm sorry. I feel quite strongly about this. It is.
I feel very strongly about, yes, let's put it in a nice container. Let's ask the lovely person what's going on with it.
Yeah.
But let's be aware that now that we have it and we will contain it safely. I mean, it's not eating through a box. I saw it this morning. Nothing happening, not floating, not glowing, not melting, not doing anything. It's fine. Let's take this one step at a time and not jump to any massive conclusions about it or pretend that it's some kind of evil entity.
It's not evil.
Please understand, I don't know machines. You're quite right.
It's not a machine.
I do understand hazards.
Kind of as a machine.
It's not.
It's just holding something you don't understand, Jared.
I understand the thing that it's holding. I just don't understand the machine bit.
I'm not sure you do understand the thing that is holding Jared.
I understand hazards and I understand traps. And I think this is a trap if we are unwary.
Pyjack kind of this way. All right, look, I think there's going to be first of all, I'm going to get another round in.
Yeah.
Secondly, I think at the moment, you're all a bit too close to it. Okay, you've all got your viewpoints from where you're seeing this thing, but remember the exercise I taught you about the 4 blindfolded people with the creature in the room, and each of them felt a different part of it, and each of them said it was a different animal because they couldn't see the whole creature. This is the same situation. You need to calm down.
Well, one of them should have taken their baddie blindfold off, that's all I say. How stupid were they?
I think that at the moment, we just need to step away from this whole situation. We're about to make planfall, have a brew, go and speak to this person, see how she comes across, see how she might be able to explain more about what it actually is from her perspective. You can make a judgment call on whether or not you're going to give it or not, or trade it or whatever when you meet her. But I think at this moment in time, all that's going to happen if you keep on this line of conversation is you're going to tear yourselves apart fighting. And at the moment, we can't afford that kind of division amongst ourselves. Not now. Not when we're this close to finding out what happened.
You're right.
Did we agree to drop anything else off here, or have we done all our deliveries?
No, we've done all our deliveries. We're here to find out where Devon Coldfire is. Okay.
We're so close, my friends.
Right.
We're so close.
Lassa,
Right?
you acknowledge that I know a lot about a lot of the weird things that goes on, right?
I'm not sure what you mean by that.
I've been around a fair bit. I'm aware of things like what holocrons are and things like that.
All right, you got a bit of reading under your belt.
I'm not
yes.
trying to trick you. I'm just trying to acknowledge where I come from when I explain something. I don't care what we do with it right now. I want to say what I know about it, and you say what you know about it, so we both know what we both know, because we both touched it.
All right.
Right. You look wary. I'm not trying to trick. He smiles.
She is wary. He might be trying to trick her with his linguistic sorcery.
I touched it, and while I say it was a battery, it is a housing for this living force. It had a blank personality, but there was something there. And from what I felt from it, the ability to change things was not from it. It was basically used as a power. It would have used me to do things. It would. I don't know if I'm explaining it very well. I don't think you're going to get the same response you would from a battery. What did you find out? What did you do?
Well, apart from the fact that it gave off no readings that I could determine with usual equipment, when I was the conduit and I directed it into the light bulb, I was able to, and it very much felt like, directing power not quite through me, but through my area, as though I expanded a little and it was going around me, close enough to, like on the edge of my hairs. And once I acknowledged that that's how it worked, then the power flowed quicker. So what it really needs is some kind of limiter to be able to keep the voltage at a set level. But it's like turning on a tap. It's got off and it's got massively on once you open it. But it truly felt, and I'm not trying to josh anyone here, it felt like the power came out of that where it had been stored around me through my force area. She says that with a little roll of the eyes, and into the light bulb. And I'll admit, I didn't quite have control over it. Light bulb won't pop. But after that, I let go. It was all fine. There was no big issue.
Can I suggest something? And I don't want to do this experiment yet at all, but I think if any of the other of us did the same experiment, we would not be able to get the light bulb to light.
Arguably, Asa points out, the first thing that we witnessed it being used for was to affect machinery, so that seems to be the most obvious thing that we've actually seen it being done, so the most obvious thing that people could do.
I cannot affect machinery, and I don't think it could affect machinery through me.
But that's not what I'm saying. I'm thinking of you just as being a power lead, so it doesn't matter what you yourself want to do.
Yeah.
You'd just be incapable going to anything else.
I'd be interested to see if we could do the same that you did, and I don't
Me
think
too.
I don't think we can.
The Force can be used for theoretically more than just electricity could, so there's a lot of potential there.
The Force exists in all living things. The interface with this artifact is a living thing. That's something that we've seen.
Yeah.
Though we did see a dead thing, or a semi-living thing, animated through the power of the Force, but the power was the lightsaber crystal.
Crystal, yes. And the crystals are definitely alive.
I don't understand it. My instincts, and I don't expect you to trust my instincts, but I trust my instincts, and my instincts are screaming trap. My instincts are screaming danger. And I trust those instincts because they keep me alive.
I think your second instinct is right, but I don't think it's a trap unless you bring the trap to it yourself.
Lassa nods in agreement. Anything's dangerous when you don't know how to use it properly.
More natural hazard. Quicksand rather than, actually, drugs.
Yeah, it's really tempting.
Shall we get on with landing on the planet?
Yeah, let's do that.
Lassa goes back to the engineering area.
Chiren goes with you.
Just checks that it's not eaten through the box or anything. It still looks perfectly normal.
Agatha's washing dishes.
No idea what we're talking about. Everybody's getting very angry.
No, he's been following some of the conversation, quite a lot of it. He doesn't want to get involved in that part of it. You all sound quite cross.
But yeah, no, it is exactly where you left it. Oberon, you make your way to the cockpit, I presume. Pyjack is helping you wash up the dishes, Agatha, and exchange kind of a meaningful look with you as everybody leaves. You see that his hands are shaking slightly as he's washing up. His whole body language is very keyed up, and he's not quite focusing on what he's doing as he's cleaning up. Oberon, you're in the cockpit. Mr. Sparkles is curled up in his basket on top of Tugger's head.
Captain? No, Jiren.
I'm only the captain to people call us.
For a second, the cat looked up at you.
Yes, exactly. Captain,
Tugger looked quite surprised, wasn't he?
Yep.
I need you to make a call.
All right, okay.
Can you contact our contact, please?
Yeah.
I don't want to do it.
Right up. I'm coming in.
I never have the words for these sort of things.
Lassa just kind of, as she's finishing up her second cup of tea, goes, "Captain," snort. But she is smiling as she does it.
Hey, you can do the talking if you want, but
Oh, no, sir. You go ahead.
as you were. I walk out.
You get the impression she's judging you. She's not against the idea, but she's judging you for it.
So you've just left Lasse back alone in the engineering room with the box?
Yeah.
And the
Okay.
key on a shelf.
Yeah, but it takes a while to unweld.
Yeah.
Frantic.
What's going on in there? Nothing.
Hop into the cockpit, sit in the communications chair.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this button here. I press it once, right? Right up. I put a call.
You realise that
Yeah.
the com code
Yeah.
for this contact is right at the end of Thrall's manuscript.
Well, I've read a bit of it. It really helps me sleep.
Yeah. So there is an awful lot of very frantic scrolling through the 197 pages, past the appendices, past the bibliography, past the acknowledgements, past the second bibliography for the acknowledgements, until you finally get to the other file at the end, which has got, well, these coordinates and a com code for Vitaara Kai. You punch it in. Meanwhile, on the surface of the planet, Vitaara, your com receives an incoming call somewhat unexpectedly.
No, Deet, get away from that. Get away from that. Deet, put it down. Put it down, Deet. Put it down. Thank you. Vitaara Kai speaking.
Hello, this is Jiran Tarfi. We are currently in orbit. We are here with items of interest which you may want to look at, essentially.
Oh, excellent. Permission to land?
Thank you very much. We're about 45 minutes out.
Oh, excellent. I'll get the tea on.
Oh, I like you already. Over and out. We'll see you soon.
Over and out.
We're going to star wipe away, because it's a fairly simple landing, to the mining camp. This mining camp bears all of the hallmarks of a military, imperial military outpost. It is all the prefab buildings that are brought in space, dropped and assembled, and then left because they are more effort to take away than they are just to leave. You know, it's those kind of plascrete, almost like porter cabins that get dropped and built up. There is a wide landing space that's been set up. There's plenty of buildings here. There's about 4 or 5 buildings, one of which is clearly some form of science main centre. And the one of which appears to be like a logistics building, one of which is a huge equipment hangar, and the other one appears to be mostly bunk rooms and a galley. There is on the landing pad a fairly small ship, which is moored up, and you can see there's not much sign of life here. It appears to have been largely abandoned up until fairly recently, where you can see where there's been some movement going around. And there is a light on in the main hab block.
Okay.
You land your vessel.
Okay.
Alpinn is a planet that is really heavily crystalline. It's so crystalline that from space it glitters like a disco ball. And where you are landing, it is clear that an awful lot of these crystals have been harvested, have been mined away, strip mined. And you can see where like just chunks of earth and crystal and rock have been broken away and taken. There's big spoilage heaps where there is rock without the crystal left in it, but it glitters. They're mostly transparent, kind of whitish crystals that glitter in the sunlight. And you land on the landing pad?
It's quite a lovely looking place, really.
It is very pretty.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we should take the orb with us, but mostly because Prinkle is still here, and the welding. We either take the orb or the welding torch, and I think we should take the orb.
Do it. You lot carry the orb. I'll carry the welding equipment.
Okay. Can we unweld it so we can put it in the lockbox? Because I don't want to, if we do show her, spend 25 minutes on welding. I can only get suspense of a reveal for about 5 minutes maximum.
My logic with getting it welded away, I have to say, was that welding is loud and noisy.
Yeah. Can we just put it in the lockbox? That's what I'm saying.
Isn't it emphasise how dangerous this thing is if we keep it in the welded thing?
Maybe, as long as we take things with us. I mean, I'm just thinking.
We can unweld it now and take it. I mean, let's face it, we were all fine with it in a sack until people started poking it who shouldn't have been poking it.
I have a suspicion that one of us who starts carrying this thing over there, this is going to start causing an argument.
No,
Not
it's fine.
really. We were fine on the way to the
Yeah,
shed.
put it in the box. It's okay.
If Agatha was the one who started carrying it, would Lasse have an objection at this point?
No.
Okay.
Let's put it in the box and then give it to Tugger to carry.
Yeah, okay.
You'll have to move the cat.
Oh, well, maybe not then.
Anyway, Lasse is now put her goggles on, ignoring you all, and just opening it up.
Okay, it doesn't take you long.
She's got her gloves on and everything. For a moment, you get the impression that she's being overly theatrical when she gets a pair of grabbers, asks everybody to stand back, please,
Theatrical welding.
and takes it out with this claw grabber, very much like something you pick up litter with, and then drops it in... No, not drops it ridiculously, but drops
right
it.
in Agatha's lap.
Drops it back into her lockbox, which she's moved everything out of it, covered it with a cloth and shoved it under her workbench. So now it's just the orb in the lockbox with some rags and padding. Then she closes it, takes the key down off the shelf, locks it up again, puts the key in her pocket because it's my lockbox, and then says, do with it what you want then.
You turn around to realise that Prinkle has appeared in the doorway and very silently has been watching you doing the unwelding.
Oh, hello, my lovely. Have you had a cup of tea this morning? Let's go get some brekkie, shall we?
Oh yes, I'm sorry I didn't cook for you this morning. I appear to have come over slightly peculiar. Where are we going?
And he smiles. His eyes are still a little bit disjointed.
We're going to speak to this Force scholar.
Okay. You want me to come with? Stay here? Tidy up?
You can if you want.
I can look after the thing for you if you want.
I tell you what, do we need any more supplies in the galley?
Always.
How about, Prinkle, you do us an inventory to find out whether there's anything that we need, and then we can maybe send you on a nice shopping trip to have a look around.
Okay, I can do that, my friend.
But I think before that, you need a cup of tea and a bantha sandwich. How about that?
Okay.
And he backs away from the engineering room, and he doesn't break eye contact with where you've put the orb until, like, the wall physically causes him to break contact.
I will admit, says Lassa, holding up a hand,
That was weird.
he is being a little bit weird.
Do you see my concern?
I see your concern as to why small children should not touch grown-up things without permission.
Yeah, I'm worried about Prinkle. I'm not worried about the orb.
Is
Yeah.
Mr. Sparkles the only one staying on board the ship?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, then Tugger.
We're taking Tugger with us.
No,
Oh.
I think you should carry the orb.
Okay.
Maybe I'll carry the orb.
I'll carry the orb.
You
That's
carry
fine.
the key. Lassa carries the key. You carry the orb. We're all good.
I didn't even start the argument.
Also, you're not carrying anything.
You can hear Pyjack as Prinkle gets into the galley, kind of going, all right, no, you make yourself a brew, I'll be back in a bit. And Pyjack then comes to join you, and he's once again garbed from head to toe in his Mark 1 Clone Wars armour, just this time with the helmet hanging on his left hip and his blaster pistol hanging on his right hip. But he's geared up.
Okay.
So are we going then? Shall we make a move? Great. You got it?
Yeah.
Cool. Let's go and see what she knows about my master.
Okay. Adam, knowing what I know about Marie Allen's, how do I address the scholar?
Vitaara is her first name.
Yeah.
It is unlikely she has any honorifics, or if she does, you're not aware of them.
Right. Is it considered to be too forwards to just go in and say Vitaara or something like that?
Not necessarily.
Right.
Not when you haven't got any other honorifics to go off.
Right.
Now, normally, especially scholars would be
Yeah.
doctor or professor or learned.
Yes.
It'd be like Learned Kai. But it could be that Vitaara does not have one of these honorifics. It could be that Thrall forgot to tell you, because you kind of get the impression that to
Right.
Thrall,
Everybody's a scholar.
everybody's a scholar.
We'll wing it. Be fine.
But learned is a term of respectful address, and Oberon, you would know that as well. And in fact, all of you probably except Lassa would know that learned is a term of respectful address to a Mirialan scholar.
Okay, thank you.
You leave the ship.
Yep. Off we go.
Pyjack he's walking in pace with you, but it's clear that he's having to restrain himself from running ahead. There is very much an anxious energy about him, and his hands are visibly shaking slightly, and he's definitely very, very keyed up.
Yeah, we've also obviously we've taken the lightsaber with us,
Yeah.
and the ancient data slates and
Yep.
that as well.
All that stuff.
I put my hand on Pyjack's shoulder gently and say, take a breath, just breathe.
He does so kind of very, very deeply, and his shakes start to subside a little and then kind of start again, and he looks at you and he's like, I can't. This is everything to me now, my friend. This is everything. If he's still alive, this is everything.
We have to be aware and wary.
Lassa walks by and she doesn't mean it in a harsh way, but just says, just enough hope to hang yourself, friend. Just remember that.
He looks slightly crushed at that, which Lassa probably doesn't notice because she's overtaken him. But yeah, you kind of see his face crumple a little bit.
Just be wary. We don't know what the light is. There's light coming. We don't know what it is. Let's just proceed with caution.
She seems nice. She said she was getting the kettle on.
We should be okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Kettle's a good sign.
Yeah.
Agatha's not trying to overtake anybody. He's trying to stay roughly central within the group. Whether anybody stays near him or not is up to them, but he's not drifting too far away from them.
We're not separating ourselves out too much. We're just...
No.
You get to the hab block. It's 2 stories, and the ground floor, kind of where the main entrance is clearly the mess hall area of it. Mm-hmm. And heading into there, you can see.
Busying herself with a kettle, but also, I think Lasser would probably appreciate this, working on a data slate at the same time, doing the 2 things at once, but keep getting distracted by the data slate, and then forgetting that, we need to do this, has probably thrown away at least 3 pots of tea, because they've gone too strong at this point. There is a Mirialan woman. She has quite rich yellow skin, hair tied back in a very practical style, bright green eyes, and a very traditional Mirialan set of tattoos beneath her eyes and on her forehead. She's dressed very practically for the crystalline desert weather. There are clearly hats and things to shade from the sun and the glare from the crystals. Same with a set of goggles to get rid of the crystal glare. Within this, there are various little bits and pieces scattered around that she's clearly working on 3 or 4 different projects at the same time. Hello.
Hello.
Oh, come in. There are a couple of droids around. Don't worry about them. That's Deet and Sally. They will be around. I think Deet's out on patrol, and from sort of underneath, a small orb floats up, and that's Sally.
Hello.
She's not a talker, is Sally. Deet might be when he gets back from his patrol.
Agatha. Well, I've got a question on behalf of Agatha at this point. What can Agatha tell from her tattoos, and what from that Adam might she tell from his tattoos very quickly? I mean, his tattoos are going to say very quickly. Basically, he's not going to have many tattoos from the fact that he's indicating that he's a criminal because he hasn't had time to have those yet. But what can he read from her? I can roll the pathetic perception roll.
You are a Mirialan. You understand Mirialan pictography. So over to Lou.
There are definite tattoos of scholarship and learning. Nothing there to indicate an official status as a learned. There are tattoos of travel and seeking and also balance. Very much tattoos of balance.
Diversity of tattoos for different subjects, sort of dilettante interest in lots of different subjects? Or...
No, very much force.
Okay.
Yeah, that it is a focus of force study.
Agatha will be impressed.
And Lou already knows what she can make out from Agatha's tattoos, because we had a discussion about this a while ago, and Lou was there for that, handily. So, there we go.
My name is, we spoke across the communicator.
Oh, yes, Jaren.
Yeah, Jaren, yes. This is the crew. This is Lasser, Oberon, and Agatha.
And she nods to you each individually.
And Pajak.
Good eye.
Shall we sit? We have a...
Oh, yes, please take a seat.
Lasser interjects because she feels there's a piece of information that's been left out of both hellos here. We're friends of Thrall?
Oh, I did wonder why you were here.
Oh, I thought we'd mention it.
That does answer a few questions very, very simply.
He spoke very highly of you at great length.
Yes, he's very interesting, isn't he? So much knowledge.
Yeah.
I mean,
Lasser's face goes blank as she
I
nods.
could listen to him for hours, and I have, because he has such a breadth of knowledge. He's an absolutely fascinating individual.
I've been going through his dissertation. It's a page turner, I'll tell you that.
Oh, isn't it? Isn't it? Oh,
Lasser is both incredibly impressed and a little bit galled at the... Yeah, all right, you're going to try pulling that one. Good luck,
matey.
matey.
It was a page turner. I mean, you've went through the pages very, very quickly to get to the end.
Actually, yeah, that is completely true. I have been reading it, and I went through all of the pages. So we went to him because we were looking for somebody. We'll get to that in a second. We have recently come across several artifacts of a nature that you might be aware of.
Oh, can I see?
Yeah. So before we get to them. What is it that you do? Where are you? You are a scholar of what?
Mostly of comparative theology is my specialisation. Yeah. The various Force traditions throughout the various galaxies, how they stack up with each other, and the various different traditions that each species has chosen to follow amongst themselves. I mean, amongst my own people, as I'm sure you're aware, we have a very strong tradition of balance and meditative communing with the living force.
Are you all right?
I'm fine. Sorry, I just got something in my throat for a minute, says Lasser.
That's probably the dust, dear.
Oh, there's a lot of crystal dust, isn't it? Beautiful, though.
I'm amazed at this point that he didn't get 4 people staring at us straight at Agatha going, what the hell's wrong with you?
I imagine there was a bit of that. I'm not going to lie to you.
Anyone who's perceptive might have thought that was slightly barbed. My own people has a very long-standing tradition with the Jedi Order in particular. Not particularly a path that I chose to follow, but...
If you don't mind me asking, do you follow another path of the Force? Are you
I'm more leaning towards just the balance of the living Force. I always found the Jedi Order a little bit too restrictive. I had certain disagreements with the various learned I disagreed with certain of the Jedi traditions because they tended to impose themselves upon other cultures and that their way was the right way and no other way was acceptable, and I disagreed with this. They were so afraid of fear and people turning to the Sith that they created their own worst enemy but could never see that. It was their own, weaknesses that led to their destruction. I mean, I'm not saying that the Jedi tradition doesn't have anything going for it. There is a lot of very, very worthy practices in there, but the way it was taken, the way it was practiced, the way it overrode all of these other myriad cultures which have since been lost amongst the annals of time, I find tragic, and I desperately want to find anything to bring those back, to see those cultures revived, those Force traditions taken back to where they should be.
Yes,
there are other traditions apart from the Jedi.
Oh yeah.
See, this is why I disagreed with the Jedi was good in its way, and some people became blinded to its faults. They were blinded, like this man says, that they didn't think there was anything else. And there are so many others out there that should be known and should be discovered.
We came to you from a ship that housed a number of people of a Dathomirian cult.
Oh.
The Sisters of...
the Night Sisters.
That was the one. It's been on the tip of my tongue for so long. Yes, the Night Sisters. They're not a thing I know much about, but I've heard that they are a different way, and there are a number of different... you don't have to be a Jedi to be a Force user.
I gathered that.
Yeah.
I just didn't know there was any scholarship beyond the Jedi.
Oh yes, there are many. Unfortunately, the Jedi did remove the vast majority of them from practice because they saw them as perhaps heretical, or just because it wasn't theirs, it wasn't right.
Lasser just cuts in for a moment. Are you saying they destroyed them? They wiped them out? Or just didn't let people talk about them?
Well, they stamped on them as the Empire almost is. They were almost like the Empire is doing now. They will come and they will impose their culture, their will, upon something else, and it gets rid of what was there before.
Cultural imperialism.
Exactly.
There's a nod from Jerain, like, yeah.
Oberon seems ever so slightly surprised.
Lasser's clearly quite agreeing here, and oh yes. Always knew there had to be something else. There's no voids, no extremes, just A or B. There's generally something else.
So, the reason we are here, by way of talking about these artifacts, is we are looking for somebody. And we are looking for one of the Jedi.
Thibaren Coldfire. He was a Jedi Knight from the Clone Wars. I understand that he might have survived the incident that caused the end of the Jedi, and that he might have made it out of that last conflict alive, and that you might know where he is, that he's still alive and out there, and that you'd be able to show us the way. For all said that you know about my master, for all said that you know where he is and what's going on.
Lasser pats his shoulder in a calming way.
He's almost vibrating, he's shaking at the table as he's...
Would you like a cup of tea? Because I think you need to sit down.
Do you have decaffeinated?
I only drink decaffeinated.
Oh, a cup of tea then, Pyjack. Might be good for you.
He kind of forces himself to sit down at one of the tables, but you can see it's an absolute effort of will, and what he wants to be doing is pacing.
Pajak, we will get to this. We will work everything out. We will talk about what we know. But we've just met this fine individual, and we can't rush into talking about this until we talk a little bit about what we all know generally. It's a...
Why not? I mean, I need to know, Durin. I need to know.
Yes, but she doesn't know us. We don't know her. Let's just have a conversation, eh?
He bites down. You can see the muscles in his jaw tense, and he's hunched forward in the seat, gripping his knees. You cannot hear the laminate on his plates on his knees starting to creak under the force of his grip.
There's a temptation, and there's always been temptations, especially when we talk, that Jaren could just calm him down. He could just reach out and just calm him down, and everything would be fine. And he thinks that. It goes through his head. He doesn't do it. But he knows he could sort this out so easily.
Give in to your feeling.
No. Doesn't like the idea of controlling people.
Surprisingly, though, Agatha will put a hand on Pajak's shoulder in support at the moment.
You can feel, even underneath the armour, the tension that's in his body at the moment. He's like a coiled spring.
And there is a raised eyebrow from Vitaara, sort of at the rest, sort of questioning.
Oberon takes in the entire site, the entire field, because he's expecting this to go pear-shaped any time.
And that seems like an appropriate time to end this episode. Before we go, first of all, thank you very much to Lou, who's joining us to voice Vitaara.
Yay, thank you!
You might remember Lou, who also voiced Hawker, everyone's favourite Leppy back on Port Haven. We're delighted to have her back around the table with us today. And this episode's patron is Halo the Panda King, who has emerged onto our Discord like a whirlwind. He is a great laugh. We very much enjoy talking to Halo. Thank you very much for backing the show. Good luck with your home games. He's involved in an awful lot of fun stuff that's going on. And yeah, we very much enjoy having you around. Thank you very much, Halo.
May the Force be with you.
And we'll see the rest of you next time. Force Majeure is played using the Star Wars Force and Destiny game system by Fantasy Flight Games and Lucas Books. Our intro music for this season is Unholy Night by Kevin MacLeod, and our outro music remains Suburban Outlaw by Forget the Whale, both used with gratitude under the Creative Commons license. If you like the show and want to interact with us, we are on Twitter, we are on Facebook, we are on Instagram, all of which are at Force Majeure Pod, though Twitter is probably where you're going to find us more regularly. If you enjoy what we do and want to support the show, there's 3 ways you can do that. The first is via our Patreon at patreon.com/forcemajeurepod. The second is by buying us a coffee at ko-fi.com/forcemajeurepod. And the third way is by rating and reviewing us on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, anywhere where you can find us. We really like reviews. It tells us that we're telling the stories that you want to hear and helps other people find us. Thank you very much for listening. We'll see you next time.